Welcome to the New Fly Fisher. I'm Tom Rosenbauer, and we're in one of my favorite places in the world today, Cape Cod. We're going to fish with 3 different guides. We're going to see all kinds of water, from sheltered salt ponds to tidal rivers to windswept outer beaches. We're going to catch some straight bass. It's going to be a great show. Stay with us.
Let him go back to live another day.
Away he goes. Great fish. Wow.
Oh, baby, look at that fish.
Stop, wiggle, on the way down.
The New Fly Fisher has been made possible thanks to Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, Chatham Bars Inn, Islander Precision Reels, and Orvis Sporting Traditions.
On this week's show, we visit Cape Cod, often referred to locally as simply the Cape. It's located in the easternmost portion of the state of Massachusetts in the northeastern part of the United States. The Cape's small-town character and large beachfront attract heavy tourism during the summer months. It's a popular vacation spot due to its natural beauty and many attractions. The island features pristine beaches, and its surrounding waters attract popular game fish, including striped bass, bluefish, bonito, and false albacore. On the first leg of my trip, I joined Captain Bill Cooling, who specializes in sight fishing on the beautiful waters of Pleasant Bay and Monomoy Island. Bill also fishes offshore for stripers, bluefish, and false albacore.
Well, we're set up here because we have a strong current coming through. That's the primary attraction. On a day like this, you're not going to be sight fishing, so you have to go for ambush points. You have to go for bottom structure that provides one, food, flow of water across it. Being an ambush predator, they love to work on a rough, rock-strewn bottom in a situation like this, where you get eddies and currents that'll disorient the bait, and anything that gives them an edge. You get a concept in a river, if you're a trout fisherman, that you're going to be working the seams and confluence of currents or behind rocks. Well, it's not much different here.
So we got outgoing tide, so water's flowing out this way.
The tide all dumps out of Pleasant Bay, and if you could pan the camera, you could see that there's a pretty substantial amount of it, but what you don't see is the other 3/4 of it because of the fog that we have now. With the 2 breaks, we've got an increase in tide, a little higher tide, a little stronger flow, cooler water temperatures, which is a wonderful thing. I mean, the flats fishing here is terrific all summer.
If you can keep the line off the deck when you strip, you can't always do it when in the heat of the moment, but if you can keep it organized in the well, it's gonna do you a lot of good. I like to fish barefoot because I can feel the line. If the line's wrapped around my feet, I can feel it. If you wear shoes or socks or whatever, you don't always know where the line is. So what I'm doing is just casting out. I'm gonna get a little more line off here and stripping at a fairly, Bill, is this retrieve speed about right?
Yeah, you'd like something about 18 inches to 2 feet in strip.
Oh, that's longer strip then.
Pretty quick. Basically, you're just letting your forearm fall at your side when you're stripping in the one-handed strip technique. That gives the fly a chance to pulsate.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You get a little bit more of a flash with it, a little more of an attraction, and it speeds it up so they don't have a chance to study it too long. They'll hammer it, they see it, they'll hammer it, or they're going to lose it to their partner next to them.
Oh, there's fish.
That was the happy zone.
That was the happy zone. Not a big one, but it's fish. Oh, don't even have to put
he's small enough that we might worry about a bluefish seeing him.
Oh, there's the future of our sport.
Yeah, it is always good to see the little guys in as much
But
as
even a little guy, look at that, bending that 9 weight, even a little guy. They're feisty fish.
they almost all hit about the same authority. I
Yeah,
mean,
they do, don't they?
you want the honors of that, or shall I?
No, I can take the honors. I'm gonna do the old, you ever see this where you get some about a rod's length of line here, right? And you bring it back, not so you're high sticking, and then you let go, and it pops the leader right into your hand and takes the pressure
That's a
off
good
the rod
trick.
tip.
That's a good
You ever
trick.
use that?
I'll bet 70% of rod death occurs from people trying to horse a fish near the boat
Yep.
with just the tip of the rod.
High sticking is probably the leading cause of broken rods, except for car doors. And so these bass are nice because stripers don't have big teeth, so you can just lip them, keep them in the water if possible. Take the hook out so that he's not out of the water long.
Yeah, generally it's
And then
it's a bigger handle to work with.
away he goes. All right, where's your uncle?
Yeah, let's look for the
Where's
grandma.
your older uncle?
We're looking for the matriarch.
Yeah. The striped bass is a schooling species, moving about in small groups during the first 2 years of its life, and thereafter feeding and migrating in large schools. 7 or 8 narrow stripes extending lengthwise from the back of the head to the base of the tail form the most easily recognized characteristic of this species, hence the old Indian and colonial name of line sider. Striped bass can live up to 40 years and reach weights greater than 100 pounds, although individuals larger than 50 pounds are rare. So I'm in here, I can see the fly, I can see nothing behind it. Make a little roll cast to get some line out there, then pick up for your cast. And particularly in a wind like this, don't be afraid to open up your arm and really reach your arm back there. You can go past the old 1:30, 2 o'clock when you're throwing a long line like this. Okay, I'm just gonna strip this one in because not worth winding in all that line. He's not gonna pull any line. Maybe a little.
He's a little lighter colored than his last one. He's been hanging out in the shallows on a
Yeah.
bare sand bottom more.
They're such a pretty fish. They just look like a, don't get in my line there. Just look like a fish that looks like a fish should, you know?
Yeah, they got
Like
the
the
right
classic-
proportions.
Oops.
They've got that strong caudal fin for ambush. And they're not built for high speed, but they sure get where they need to get in a hurry on the short range.
Yep. So then we're just gonna hold this line tight here and then pop the leader right in my hand, takes all the pressure off the rod tip, and I don't get him tangled in the fly line, we'll be okay. This is a good place where I should have had a pair of pliers on me because he took it deep. But
I have a pair right here.
I think I can pop it out. Conditions were far from ideal, making casting very difficult and putting the fish off the bite. We decided to head back in as tomorrow's another day. I returned to my accommodations to plan out the next day's strategy. The rods we used for our trip to Cape Cod were 9-foot, 9-weight rods with fast actions. These are needed for making the long casts are required when fishing for striped bass. A large arbor reel with smooth drag system along with a capacity of at least 200 yards of 30-pound backing are also needed, as large fish in fast current can sometimes make long runs. We use different types of lines depending on the conditions. We use floating lines, clear tip lines, and 400 grain full sinking lines for the deeper waters. When fishing topwater, we use a floating line with a 16-pound fluorocarbon leader and added 4 inches of wired bite tippet to the fly. For fishing the flats and estuaries, we used a clear tip line and a 9-foot fluorocarbon leader with a 12-pound tippet and then the fly. When using the 400 grain sinking line, we only use 6 inches of 20-pound test fluorocarbon tippet and then the fly.
So we're here wading a tidal river today. It's another one of the many types of fishing you have on the Cape. The great thing about the Cape is there's such variety of fishing. And here, the striped bass have chased some herring up in here. It happens every spring. So a whole different kind of fishing, something you could do on your own or with a guide. We're with a guide, George Ryan, who is a legendary wade guide here in the Cape. He guides, but he doesn't guide from a boat. He takes people wading on beaches and in estuaries like this. And we've also got Steve HEMKENS, who's the head of product development at the Orvis company, and he's here testing some new tackle. So we're gonna try this tidal water and see if we can catch a big striper.
In a spot like this, we're fishing in a tidal river. Tide has just begun to turn and run out. It's a river that we have herring run in, so we're using large herring-style flies. We're using a 300 grain depth charge, a sinking line, and a stripping basket. We want to get down a bit in the water column. And to use a basket here works because if you're dropping your line on the bank, you would tend to tangle it in the grass. It would restrict your ability to cast. So like most saltwater striped bass fishing, you find a basket is necessary. The bass are fast enough, you'll never outstrip the fly from them. If they want a herring, well, they can catch it.
Oh, what a monster!
What's that, a small one, Tom?
Huh?
That's a small fish?
Well, he's almost as big as the fly.
Well, we're actually looking for something larger than that, if we can do it.
But he bent the rod.
But a lot of times I'll take clients up here, especially if they're trout fishermen, and they'll wonder at the size of the fly.
Yeah.
So there's the example where, you know, a very small striper is going to take an 8-inch fly.
Yep. Good point. Okay, buddy. Tell your papa.
Well, your older sister. The big ones are usually the girls.
Oh, that's right, your older sister, yeah.
There are 2 basic retrieves used when fishing for stripers. The first is a single-hand retrieve used when the fish are not very aggressive. And then the double-handed retrieve used for more aggressive fish. Experimenting with different retrieves to determine what the fish want is one of the most important aspects of saltwater fly fishing.
It's a small, very unhappy striper right now. Very small fish on a very large fly. Small bass on a big fly, probably 3-year-old fish, maybe first-time migrator. Come back in about 4 or 5 years. You can see the fly is tangled. When you brush it, you want to put it against something. I'll usually use my leg. Brush the fly out. We'll take the tangles out. Fly's ready to go. You want to brush with little knobs at the end of it. It tends to not tear the fibers out of the fly. Fly is once again ready to go.
Oh, there's a better fish, I think. No, fighting like a little one. Took out line for a minute, I thought it was a good fish. Little bit bigger than the last one.
From a guide standpoint, they're all good fish.
Huh?
From a guide standpoint, they're all good fish.
Yeah. Oh, I may need the comb after this one. Now, one of the things that George and I were talking about, which is really important, is that if you do want to go any kind of saltwater fishing, if you limit yourself to 1 or 2 days, or sometimes even 3, it's tough, because it's so weather dependent that you can really get blanked and get blown off the water. The nice thing about Cape Cod, though, is that there's so many different angles and protected areas that you always have some kind of option. Very rare, unless the wind blows 30, you can almost always find some kind of protected water where you can at least get a cast out there.
The flies we used today were crab patterns in colors of brown and also in green. We used Lefty's Deceivers, squid patterns, and one fly you should never be without, the Clouser Minnow in various colors, especially in chartreuse and olive and white.
That's a nicer bass, probably what, 20?
Somewhere 20, 21 inch, probably, I don't know, 3 to 4 pound fish.
Still a relatively small fish for what we're used to, but
Yes,
what you're used to certainly. But,
Being humble, I'm willing to accept anything.
yeah.
The third leg of my trip was with my old friend Captain Tony BISKI, one of the pioneer guides of Monomoy Island. First we're going to fish inshore, then we're going to try the offshore rips, and if we're lucky we'll get conditions good enough to fish on the flats. Our strategy here was to drift over likely areas where Tony knew where there's some fish. The use of a drift sock slows down your drift to enable proper fly presentation over holding fish.
So Tony, why did you stop right here? The shoreline looks the same. There's jetties and sand beaches and all the way down here, and you've stopped at very discreet spot. Why this spot? Why'd you stop here?
I'm setting up for a drift over a little hump that's out here. Over the years, it's been very productive. I'm setting up close to shore because the wind is going to push us off the beach. The best wind for here is no wind, but we usually have a predominantly southwest, which will push me over it. But we're going to take a different approach to it today. The hump is right out here. They usually hang on the hump. It's bluefish and bass. Let's see what we can do.
Oh, yeah, I'm on. Oh, nice fish.
Okay, I'm over you, Tom.
All right. Oh, he's coming toward us. The reason I love striped bass is because you can find them anywhere. They're a very adaptable species. They eat lots of different things. You can find them right up on the shoreline. You can find them 10 miles offshore. You can sight fish to them in crystal clear water if you're lucky. If you don't have a lot of wind and you have overhead sun, you can sight fish for them just like you can bonefish or permit. You can catch them at night in the ponds, in the harbors. You can catch them along the shoreline here. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. You catch them on poppers, catch them on streamers, catch them on crab flies. They're just an amazing fish, and they're the perfect fly rod fish because they're a shallow water feeding fish. They prefer structure and shallow water. Well, we finally got a good, whoa, hang on a second. We finally got a good striped bass, and I love these fish.
He inhaled it. Yeah. He's not the biggest one out there, but it's not a bad fish. There's plenty of more. We're going to go back in and make some same drifts that we just did. There's a pretty good pot of them. If I give him a little shake, sometimes he puts the fin up for you, but really he had a little accident with somebody. What I say is any fish that has to swim by New Jersey to get here can't, avoid something like that.
Here comes some fish. What's this? That's bass. That's bass. Those are definitely bass. Oh yeah, baby! Oh, that was cool.
Now wait till you see the color of this fish as opposed to the one we caught in against the beach over those grassy bottoms. This fish will be blonde because he's been sitting on a sandbar.
How long does it take them to change color?
You know, I don't know, but these are resident fish. They've been hanging out here for a while.
Oh, so they've been over this light bottom for a while. Pretty fish. He is blonde.
The Monomoy blonde. Got him.
A nice fish.
Nice fish, huh? That's what we're looking for. He's loaded with sea lice, too. That's what we're after.
Thanks for watching. We had a terrific few days on Cape Cod catching striped bass and bluefish. For more information, visit our website at thenewflyfisher.com.
The New Fly Fisher has been made possible thanks to Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, Chatham Bars Inn, Islander Precision Reels, and Orvis Sporting Traditions.